Anyways, I was talking about shame. There's much I can talk about, really, but I'm switch on the phone and I say, well, let's see what comes up, but we'll just see how it goes. Because also, I really want to do a video on movies. Okay, so maybe I'll get into that, but I just wanted to talk about shame. And again, I'm actually going to, I recorded, I think it's about a 7-minute segment from Tim Fletcher from one of his recordings. Somebody wrote into him and described their shame throughout the day, and as soon as they wake up in the morning, and when they look in the mirror and they say, "Oh, look at you," and it's so accurate, and it's just so overwhelming when you hear this person. She's walking in the road, she's going for a walk. Oh, well, she opens the door for her cats, and they walk in and she says, "Oh, my sister would take better care of the cats than I do." Just this idea that you can't do anything right. She goes for a walk in the street and she's, shame lowers, and then there's a car behind her and she thinks that she was in the way, and she waves and then they wave back, and there's shame sort of settles, and then another car comes past and something like that, and she waves and they never wave back, and she was like, why didn't they wave back? What's wrong with me? And just this whole thing about, like, again, shame is not an emotion. It's a self-image. It's an image that we have of ourselves. We see ourselves as shameful people. It's scary how much shame controls us. And I talk about control and external control and mind control and, culture control and everything else, and, trauma control, whatever it is, but shame. For myself, how much of my channel, I didn't even realize about my channel, brings up shame for me. Oh my word, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And I'm sure you could see it sometimes when I write a description in the video. Again, I'm like, I'll say, jump to this place, in the recording, because the rest of it is just sort of baloney, or just me sort of, it's not interesting. And again, I feel that people are just coming to my channel to be self-served, something that they can get out of it. Also, I feel the pressure of, again, when it's a long video, who has the time for that? But that's been my experience in life. That's been my experience. I speak to my father once every maybe month on the phone, and even for 15-20 minutes, and I can hear for him, it's like, okay, good to speak to you, okay, bye boy, love you, type of thing. And I don't take that personally, but that's just most people. I remember I sent my friend, this guy was not my friend, but Michael, I spoke to him about in my last recording. I sent him a recording. I was talking about Kratom and one or two other things. The recording was like 6 minutes long, and he replied to me, he said, thanks bro for the recording, but honestly, he says, it's just too long. He didn't even listen to it. He's like, I don't have 6.5 minutes to listen to you, even on like 1.5. Can you imagine that? And I'm sure some of you also, which is understandable, especially on YouTube, when you put up the speed to 1.25, 1.5. For me, I just get stressed out at 1.5, because it's just, depending on what I'm listening to, I don't really do 1.5. But I'll do, depending on the person and what they're talking about. If it's large subjects, if it's like political stuff in South Africa, then I'll do 1.25, depending on the person. If it's like a recipe, it's like a lentil bread or something like that, whatever video, then I'll, and it's so slow, and then we just feel that anxiety of, okay, speed up. So I have that feeling for myself in my whole life, not just being an emotional person and more of a present person, more of a conscientious, or I try to be more of a sincere person. I didn't spend my whole life like that, but when I have been, the people just haven't had the time. One of the things, when I had my friend Marlene on the farm, she had no one else to talk to. And it was great for me, because I would visit her like once a month, and she had nothing to do, and she was so happy to see me. So she would have some human interaction, and she had all the time in the world, But again, very self-serving. And that's what I'm saying with my videos, that like the parts where people are just coming to hear what they can gain and take away for themselves, but not actually really care about me or not have a relationship with me. It's more so just like, oh, that's interesting. And I see people that are just sort of intellectually hungry or interested, in a sense. You do get those kind of people that, oh, that idea, I really like that, which is very, very problematic in a way. I mean, some people I do listen to. No, I don't know if I really do. I like to listen to people in context of who they are and their whole experience and what they're about and what that means to them in their own personal experience. Something like that. Let's say if I'm talking about shame, that's what I'm going to tell you about my own shame in my own personal life. I'm not going to tell you a story about, a case study of shame. I mean, I might, but I want to tell you about my own shame and my own insecurities. Anyways, there's so much to be said, but there's a lot of resistance for me, and I'm sure you listening to it as well. You feel the shame in your own way when you try to be doing something creative or share yourself or even leaving comments or whatever it may be. That shame and that self-doubt. Again, I've listened to a lot of Daniel Mackler over the years. Don't know if you know who he is. He's you can check out some of his videos, and he talks about for himself what a hard time he has making videos, and like sometimes he'll make a video and then not sleep at night and feel like, what are people going to say, maybe. And I mean, he's a brilliant guy, he really is a phenomenal salt of the earth kind of guy, but the amount of worry and concern that he has, and what I'm saying is that he doesn't talk about shame that I've come across now that I think about it. I'm saying shame is the epitome. I've probably said this before, I don't know, I can't remember what I say in my recordings, but it's just what we do because, and what we don't do out of shame anyways. So for myself, shame that I might not be having anything worthwhile to say. Shame for taking up people's time. I tell you, it's very bad. I'm going to Johannesburg on Friday. Okay, today's Wednesday, and I'm going to Johannesburg. And it's pretty boring because I have my family there in a way, but my mother's in Israel and I'm going to be bored. And a guy that I know, that I've talked to, on WhatsApp, and, I was friendly with his brother. And anyway, I've known him for a while. And I think to myself, like, oh, if you have time, I mean, just a part of me, that you could spend time with me, in a way, like almost, you're such an important, busy person. This is from my childhood. This is from my upbringing. It's still there. Like I care, his Jewish name is Raphael, so we call him Rafi, right? And I don't think he'll ever come across this channel. He doesn't have the time for it. I'm not sure if he'd be interested really. I think his ideas are too hectic for him. He's more into the Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, what's his name, Joe Dispenza type of thing, which really annoys me. It just really annoys me. Because it's just whatever. Anyway, so but he's a nice guy to hang around with. I don't mind. We come from similar upbringings, and he's a decent, individual, and he cares for me. And I mean, I don't think he's going to listen to this ever, but he can't really be there for me on an emotional level. He's not emotionally, there. And also, I don't know. He's a good guy, but he's a lot further behind, and he's more disillusioned than he gives himself, than he's even close to even understanding, and then speaks and gives me advice very freely. And again, dude, you don't understand what you're even saying. You're just saying words. You're just copy and pasting and saying generic terms from somebody else that you read something else. You're not being sincere, not being genuine, because you can't really be there for me on an emotional level, because you're not there for yourself on an emotional level. And again, always positive. So anything that is negative, so-called negative, then we just ignore that anyways. So just in my life, I've really felt indebted for people just to spend time with me. I remember when I came back from the farm and I moved back to Johannesburg after a year and a half, and I was so bored. I had no friends. I had nobody. That I used to hang out with my mother's friend. We used to go to, and her other friends, and I mean, her name's Brenda, and she was probably at the time, in her early 70s, or mid 70s. and she would go to see like a concert and what, you know, something or other, musical, and I would go with her and her friends, and I was just so grateful, and I was just so desperate. I was like, yo, when are we going to hang out again? I mean, people, I have gone to I have been to such low, degrading degrees of humiliation, of sheer, utter humiliation, of sheer, utter loneliness. And before, as I was, you know, as I am now, I mean, I'm different now. Before, I was just about anybody just to spend some time with me. And I honestly felt that they were doing me the biggest favor. I honestly felt indebted to them. Well, some of you know I was in a relationship, you want to call it, with this lady named Mandy. You know, she's a Zulu lady. It wasn't really a relationship. And she was so like unproductive in the relationship. She was so, it was pathetic. It was pathetic. But I still felt like, you know, that songs, and she wasn't that a beautiful woman and whatever it was. And you know that song, some guys take a beautiful girl and hide her away from the rest of the world. Oh mama, don't you ever, because girls just want to have fun, you know. And I just thought, like, yo, now you're spending time with me, you could be partying and meeting much better looking guys and much more popular guys and much more wealthier guys, and you know, and here I am sort of keeping you, you know, and I wasn't really, but just stuff of hindering people, of holding them back, of being a nuisance in their life, of them doing me a favor for hanging out with me. For hanging out with me. I used to, you know, in South Africa, there's a lot of security guards that guard buildings and townhouses and even houses and whatever it is, complexes, and I used to make friends with the security guards, and if you want to call it that, and I would go over to them. These are black guys, English sometimes not great, but I'd sit with them. And I would talk just so I'd have a little bit of company. I'm serious. And a lot of them were just nonsense. I mean, they were like, you know, just really, just to get by. That's been the story of my life. And no matter how hard I've tried, I'm still alone. I've spoken about this before. I am still alone. You know, I was on the beach. I meet a lot of people. I mean, I don't mind. I go up to people, like I've said before. I just, you know, I don't know. I don't, yeah, doesn't bother me to a certain degree. Just about anybody, depending. I mean, you know, like, yeah, within reason. But so I meet people, and again, not really going anywhere. So I was walking on the beach yesterday. It was 2 days ago. I'm not sure when it was. Who can even tell time anymore? I don't know. And I was thinking to myself, this is quite heavy, and I never followed through in the process of this thought. I said, you know what? I do believe in prayer. I mean, I really do. I don't know how it works. It does work. There is something to it. What I realized with prayer, because, you know, we just maybe so like, you know, with movies and just something or other, or like My Name is Earl, that TV series, which is quite good. But like, you think that you pray, and then I just pray to feel better, and then all of a sudden you think you're going to feel better. You know, I just pray for this person to come to their senses, or this something to come through, and then for me, you always think it's like maybe going to be an immediate thing. You know, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but I think it's going to be, okay, I just feel to get better. I just feel to just close my heart. You know, God, help me close my heart from the situation. Maybe the prayer doesn't get answered, but I see that prayer can take a long time before it is, I wouldn't say even answered necessarily. I don't know. These are funny terms to say, but anyways, so, and there's also so much to be said on that. So I'm walking on the beach, and I'm thinking to myself, why don't I pray to meet people that I can enjoy spending time with, that I find meaningful face to face, that I could go with for a barbecue on the beach or something like that, that I could, I don't know, just go for a hike, you know, a dude, a guy, or a woman or something, that we could drive out on a Sunday for an hour's drive and would go and have a hike together. Like, Just that. Is that so much to ask? Just that, you know? And obviously somebody that I can have a decent, reasonable conversation with. And, you know, I did meet a guy when my car broke down named Ruan, but we kind of fell out of touch. But he's just, I don't know, he's just not nice guy, sweethearted, but I can see we're just not on the same wavelength. And I don't know. It's very hard to meet people anyway, but it comes close to it in a way. Well, not really. So I'm walking on the beach and say, well, do I feel that I should pray to meet somebody that I can spend time with twice a week, you know? I'll just say before, sorry, I'm going to change it. I don't want to lose this thought. You know, listen how bad it got for me. I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to come back to what I'm saying, so please just excuse the segue. So I thought to myself, how is it that can I meet people? I mean, listen how low I was going, and it wasn't so long ago this. I thought to myself, maybe I could listen how crazy this was, maybe I can become a photographer for one of these escort sites, websites. So what I'm saying is that, you know, the ladies book a photographer, and you come and you take photos of them, whether some of them are nude, some of them are not. Most of them aren't nude, but I mean, you can see, you know, they're mostly topless in a sense, and whatever it is, and trying to look as appealing as they could. And I find that an interesting, you know, area, because some of these people are kind of rock bottom, and I found at times it's very dangerous, but the rock bottom people are very interesting. You know, you'll find very interesting people in a drug rehab center, because they're in pain, you know, and they're there to try and heal, or try and you know, they're more in touch with reality, you know, with the hardships and the harshness of it, you know, and they've got stories to tell, and they're very painful stories, but, you know, there's also something they're more alive in a certain way. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, they're just more different. Not everybody, obviously, not everybody, but sometimes there is a diamond in the rough, you know. And I thought to myself, I know nothing about photography, but I thought maybe I could learn. And then what I would do is I'd drive around and I would take the photos of these women. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but that was out of desperation, you know. And maybe I'd meet one of them, you know. I mean, I know I'm crazy, and I'm just being honest, because this was just a thought. I never went ahead with it. This was just a thought. The idea was for me to meet different kind of people, or something like that. Maybe I'd connect with one of these ladies, but mostly not. You know, I mean, I'm not going to, but it's just, you know, somebody that who can need a friend. People in the city today that have got it all together, so-called, and they have their whole group of friends, and they go, you know, to the pub on, you know what I'm saying? They got their whole friends. They got Monica, they got Rachel. You know, there's Joey and Ross, and they've been friends since they were high school and whatever it is. And it's like, I wouldn't want to be friends with them either. But it's the person who's trying to, you know, put food on the table by any means necessary. And they're trying hard, you know, to do, and they're sacrificing, compromising a lot about themselves. It's commendable in a way. There's also downsides to it. I hear that, I understand that, you know. But I would be very bored in meeting somebody who comes from, I mean, because I don't think anyone comes from a healthy upbringing and background, but I'm just saying, sort of just so, you know what I mean, like, got good marks at school, straight after school they had a boyfriend, they've always kind of been in and out of a relationship, you know, anyways, just sort of that carbon copy type of woman. Just so boring. Just so boring, you know? Yeah, so that was a bit of a crazy idea. The other idea that I had was that there's a little restaurant that I drive past often called Comics. And I mean, it's not fast food, but it's, you know, not quality kind of stuff, and it's whatever. It's like got comics, it's in, you know, posters of Archie and, you know, that kind of sort of style, and they have burgers and chips and pizzas. I mean, what the standard, you know, restaurants have most of, you know. And I went in and I got myself something to eat the other day, which is very seldom because again, it's so little food that I could actually eat there. So I did get like a vegetarian burger, whatever that means, and it was trash, and I felt so ill afterwards. And it comes with 2 veg. I think I might have mentioned this, but anyways. And I thought to myself, I was talking to, but I'll talk to most people just to have some kind of, interaction. There's oxytocin, I think it's called, that, when 2 people are touching or like engaging, that it releases this chemical. And I do find there is something to it. Anyway, so, oxytocin. So I thought to myself, when I left, I thought, what happens if I got a job there? I felt like, what's his name, from American Beauty, Lex, what's his name, Kevin Spacey, and he quits his job and he starts working at a checkout. He works at McDonald's or something like that as the cashier or something like that. And I thought to myself, Lester Berman, yeah. Anyway, so I thought to myself, like, maybe I would work there, for like 2-3 nights a week, and I'd try and meet people or just engage with people, and then I thought I wouldn't be able to handle it. I wouldn't be, I won't be able to shift my whole mind around it and organize it into my being, I just wouldn't be able to commit to it. Anyway, there's so much to it. So I'm on the beach, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm walking, listening to music and saying, why don't I pray? Why don't I can remember, why don't I pray in order to meet somebody? And a part of that came back to me, a part of that feeling came back to me, and I said, it just felt, because I'm so upset of what I've had to go through, and especially at that moment, now it's evening, so it's a bit more chilled. I know that I'm going away, so I'm going to have a bit of a break for 2 nights. That's how desperate I get. But because I've been so desperate, and because I've been handed what I feel such a raw deal, even though I have somebody in my life, even though I'm supposed to be part of a family and I don't, and I'm on my own, I'm saying again, the salt in the wounds, the slap in the face, the irony and everything else, and I'm still on my own. I bought a house. My father bought a house that I was supposed to move in with people, with a family, start a family, whatever it is, have a family, but that never worked out. It worked out for the better, but yeah. So, can you believe it, And so, yeah. So a part of me felt, no, I can't pray for this, because again, I just feel so, I've had to deal with such despair. It's like I don't even want to think about it. When you've been through so much, like you just don't really want to, especially when you're feeling down and out, and you're feeling like really rock bottom. You think, I just don't want to think about it. I'm just, in your life when you've really been upset with somebody, and then like on an ongoing level, and to such a degree that you're absolutely exhausted, and you just don't want to think about them before you fall asleep at night, or even because it just upsets you. You just get infuriated and you get angry about it, and it's like, it's just really, you just think to yourself, you know what, I'd rather just not think about it. I just rather distract myself. I don't know. I just don't want to go there. And that's in a way with prayer. Like, I do believe in it. I do believe in the universal plan of things, and how my life is unfolded and how it is necessary. But there's parts of me that, I don't agree, are in contrast with that, are in conflict with that. I don't necessarily agree with it, Let's say I did meet somebody. I don't know, it's a very tricky situation, when Andy Dufresne left Shawshank Redemption after being wrongfully accused, and I think spending 40 years or 30 years of his life there. When he left, did he maybe say like to himself, okay, I accept it? Eckhart's formula for 95% happiness or something crazy is about accepting the situation and telling yourself, I can't get into it. I will one day, but it is just absolutely horrendous what this monkey is saying.
Be grateful for whatever your experience of this moment is, and if you cannot be grateful, At least allow it to be, because it already is. Might as well. Now, if you did this little thing, it sounds very little, and it is very little. Allowing your experience of this moment to be the way it is. Just this little thing would remove, well, how to put it in percentage terms. Let's say 95% of the suffering from your life. I don't know about the rest of 5%, I'll get to that sometime. That would already remove a gigantic chunk of unhappiness in whatever form. Be great.
So, with Andy Dufresne and people that have gone through very traumatic times, I mean, maybe it will take Andy Dufresne many years after he'd broken out of prison and seen, wow, what a gift that was, and how I managed to overcome that, and how I'm grateful now for the experience because I'm so far removed from it. But there's no ways that you can tell me that Andy, in the prison when he's put in solitary confinement for 2 months, you cannot tell me that that guy was grateful and appreciative for his experience. You cannot tell me that. And for those who haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, it's a movie in the 1950s or 40s, I'm not sure what year it is, I'm terrible with years. And here's a man who's accused of murdering his wife, his newly married wife, and he goes to prison for it. And he's an upstanding guy, he's an honest man, he's a sincere person, he's a good-hearted person, he gets wrongfully accused. Not only does his wife die, but he's accused for her murder, and now he's put into jail, I think, for life or however long. And now he's met with these people who try and, you know what goes on, it's just horrible, horrible things in prison. And here's his life taken away from him and having to wake up in a prison. I mean, it's horrendous. So don't tell me, people, don't tell me, Eckhart, when you're sitting in your multi-million-dollar house or whatever it is, you know, with money in your bank, to accept the situation for what it is and surrender to it. It's such baloney. No, that's not what the human spirit does. That's what you tell Truman when you want to keep him in the Truman Show. Anyways, I'm getting carried away, and I'm going to save that for another talk, but there should be so much hell and fury raining down on people like Eckhart Tolle. There really should, but there's barely anybody. Anyways, I'm going to say that for another day, because I have to. I feel it's my moral and duty and ethic to just, expose this fraud and the snake oil salesman with his absolute lies and how much damage it's doing to people and keeping them stuck in the Truman Show. Oh, this guy is so sickening. Anyways, I just get carried away because it does. It's like people are blinded by it. People come along, yeah, but he does say some good things. Oh, fantastic. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. Anyways, so for myself, walking on the beach and saying, you know what, I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't pray for it. There is a part of me, to be honest, that says, look, I know that it will unfold how it's supposed to unfold in the time and the season that it needs to. So I have to be patient, and I just have to do the best that I can. So there's a part of me that does appreciate it, Just like there's different parts of the brain, we've got the carnal mind, we've got the limbic system, we've got all these different parts that are activating, and we're supposed to, and the one's emotional and the other one's more logical. It's the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. But as human beings, we can't be contradictory. We can't love God and be angry at God at the same time. Oh, no. It's either black or white. It's a rubbish. Absolute trash. Absolute trash. So, for myself, again, I don't know. I bet there's an embitterment of saying, you know what? To hell with it. I'll cut my nose to spite my face. Now I must pray for something that I've needed, that I've wanted so much in my life, and I think it's going to make such a benefit in my life, and how painfully, and lonely it is in my life. I don't know. I mean, I'm saying like, and that's not. I don't know. And I'm just supposed to open with open arms. Like even right now, when I go back into the house, sure, after this recording, I feel a little bit better. I know I've connected with maybe 4 or 5 of you that are still listening, which again, my critic and my shame self would be like, oh, well, these guys are such losers. They got nothing. No, I don't really think that. I'm saying, that they got nothing better to listen to. Some random dude from South Africa who's busy, playing with his cats. So he's bored, so he decides to do some recordings or something like that. I'm not thinking like that at all. But again, a part of me be like, everybody else's life is so much more important. That's that part of me that's the shame. It's that woundedness. Oh, they're so important. I grew up with a father that if you made him late for work, 1 minute late for work, or even if you were like sick as a dog, and the school couldn't get hold of my mother, and they had to call my father, how I'd be terrified. Please do not disturb my father at work. Or if I got into trouble, just give me detention for a month, but just don't call my father at work, because I do not matter. If I was ever late, oh my word, how terrifying it would be, because work was the most important thing, and all just horrible. So again, what's taking up people's time, feeling that other people's lives are so much better. When I broke up, well, she broke up with me, or I don't know what happened with my first love, Gabby, I just felt like, she was so much better off than me. And she found a guy like a couple of months after, and, they started dating, and I just thought like, and they got engaged, and she got married, and she had children, and she just, fell into the whole system of things. And I thought to myself, and look at you, man, look at you, how despicable you are. She, is actually, again, just put people on a pedestal, an unbelievable pedestal, and that they're so much better than you. And that's just, Gabby's so much happier, and she's, her life is so much more simpler now, and it's less fight, and, you're just in the dog box, you're just in the gutter type of thing. And I just saw her as somebody, and I remember when I bumped into a friend that somebody saw who used to be friendly with her and knew about her. It was like a few years later, and he says to her, dude, she doesn't deserve the guy that you are. I know who she is, and I know her husband, and he's such a tool. I mean, he really is such a tool. And what was terrible was that when she got married, there's a whole long story. I've probably mentioned it before. Anyways, and I was still in love with her for a very long time, and I was always hoping that she'd get divorced from this guy that she married, and which was crazy, And I went to see her father because I was friendly with Gabby's father, and she said, like when Gabby and this guy got married, he heard Gabby speaking to me on the phone. Why can't her husband be more like Aaron? And I was so upset that the father told me that, because I actually went to the father and saying, I actually bumped into her husband and we were drunk at the synagogue, and, I said some things that I shouldn't have, and, I confessed my love, and he was talking about all his troubles in the marriage and everything else. And, for me it was so wonderful that, all these troubles and whatever. I was so dysfunctional. I went to her father and she told me, he was so upset because he said, why can't you be more like Aaron? But in my own mind, it was like she was beyond Thunderdome. She was, the bee's knees, and her life was so much better, and, moved on without me, and, type of thing. And I don't know, just feeling really sort of so ashamed and so insecure, so often over the time, putting people on pedestals because I was put so low in my own life. Just apologizing for my existence, apologizing for having any needs. So again, I walk around feeling like a lot of an absence within me, a sort of a void within me a lot of the time. And then again, it's sort of exacerbated or made worse by the fact that, yeah, brother, you just got to be so on your own, and you just think about when things are going to, just, and have your face rubbed in it, type of thing. I talked when I spoke about this, the lady Rihanna. Yeah, man, it's hardcore. And you know what? I don't think I'm a bad person. I think I'm pretty easy to get. Look, I mean, I request for the person to grow, which is probably, very like. It'll be easier if I just was more of a womanizer type of thing than actually a reflection on somebody of their need to grow and to see their shadow and to address their complex trauma and their childhood trauma and their pain and everything else, and to be sincere. I mean, for heaven's sakes, how popular is that going to make me with the ladies? What kind of, not just with the ladies, but I like female company. I don't know what to say. I am a man. I'm just putting this chair thing inside. So you're just going to have to listen to me while I do this, all my professionalism. Yeah, I'm done with the cats. Oh, come on now. Sorry about this. Should have thought this ahead. Should have planned this ahead. But anyways, I don't know, I'm going to be 43. And I suppose, just wanting to be able to build something with somebody, and that somebody's there who has my back, and that somebody who I can cook meals with and eat meals together, that kind of thing. Walk on the beach together, go for a hike together, wake up next to somebody type of thing. Just that kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like I'm an 89-year-old person who lives on their own, and has barely any interaction with other human beings, in a sense. I mean, to a certain degree, that's what I feel like, and it's just not fair. Because again, I don't think I'm like a woman abuser, I wouldn't just say woman, I don't think that I'm such a bad guy. But it's not about that, is it? It doesn't matter what kind of person I am. And then I argue about it. It's like, well, why is it so far-fetched for me to build something with somebody? Why is it so, I mean, for heaven's sakes, there's how many people in the world? Like, really now? So how do I, when I'm coming from that frustration, I'm coming from that frustration, I'm able to pray and say, well, can you please, I know I'm being mocking, but there is a part of me that feels that way, that's so disgruntled. Again, I'm sharing the opposing opposites that we have as human beings to wrestle with God. Not just as an idea, but in our own lives. I'm sure there's things in your own life you can wrestle with God. This is my wrestling. This is my hey. This is my grievances. This is my frustration. You know what it is. All-knowing God, but you missed the spot type of thing. So of course I'm going to have my grievances. You don't think Andy Dufresne in Prison Break had his grievances? Of course you do. So again, for him, leaving Shawshank, I'm sure it was a very tough emotional, mixed emotions with the whole situation. It was pretty very mixed. Because again, the tougher the challenge, the sweeter the victory. But maybe the challenge is so big that in some ways it kind of just breaks you. Was Andy Dufresne broken to such a large degree? Truman wasn't broken. In a way, because he only woke up much later, and he got out quite soon after he had woken up to it. But if he had been waking up and for 15 years trying all the time and reflecting on everything intensely for a very long period of time, that might just break his spirit, and he might have would have just given up and said, look, I can't, I'm trying everything that I can, I just don't know what to do. Maybe sincerely trying, sincerely with real effort, and yet it would be it didn't amount to anything. And I watched this, it was this YouTube video on this guy that's been in prison, he still claims that he was wrongfully accused of murder or something like that, and it seems like it's true, and he won't admit that he's guilty. It was these corrupted cops that laid this charge against him, or it was a setup, and I do feel it was true that the guy was put there innocently, but he says, he was put there, he was not guilty, and he's innocent. Imagine spending your whole life and saying, look, I'm not giving in. So, because they said if he had pleaded guilty, then he probably would have been there for 10, 15 years, he would have been out by now. or something like that. I can't remember the full case, if he did murder somebody or what it was about, but he would have been out by now. But he said, no, I don't care, this is the truth, and it's what he stood by. So again, just it's just so much commitment that we make and sacrifice that we make, and it's very difficult. This is like real hectic stuff. This is really intense things. Maybe you go and fight for your country, and then you lose your legs or something like that, and you become a cripple and you got severe back pain the rest of your life, and then your country, they don't even care for you anymore. You're a veteran who's forgotten about, can't get a job, is addicted to pain medications. Well, you served your country. It'd be like, I put my life on the line, and for what? Because then you realize and you work it out, you'd be like, oh my word, this war was just based on power or money. It wasn't based about protecting American lives. G.I. Joe, it wasn't about that. And maybe I did watch just too many TV shows, and I had the wool pull over my eyes, and I was misled. And now look what a price it came with. Look what a cost it came with. What a sacrifice. Say, but you didn't know. You made the decision. Say, look, I was none the wiser. I didn't know. I wasn't raised with conscious parents. I wasn't raised in a conscious environment. Sometimes, again, life is very, very, very unfair. Very unfair. I was listening to such sad things when you hear about people that die in car accidents. This morning, not far from where I live, a pregnant woman died in a car accident. I mean, life, man, it's crazy, it's hectic, and yet we're such children. We are so ill-prepared and unprepared and just so, oh my word, it's crazy. And how vulnerable we are, and how impressionable we are, and how easily trauma is created. It's madness. It absolutely is shocking. I mean, really, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. Again, how many human beings does it take? And how many are going to escape the web? And how many are going to be able to heal? And how many of them are going to actually, be alive and conscious? And, through all of it all, not many. So it's like, again, nature, like with seeds, a tree will let off, millions of seeds, and only maybe one or two of them will land correctly in the right environment to get planted, because the conditions are very harsh. It's like sperm. So 500,000 are released and only one little guy makes it, because the conditions are so intense. So human beings thrown into the matrix, thrown into this world, as easily impressed upon. We're so dependent on adults until we're the age of about 16 or 17, or however long it is. First 7 years of a child's life are the most important. That will make or break a child for the rest of his life. It's crazy. It's just madness. Not to be taken lightly, not for the faint of heart, not at all. Yeah, so for myself, sometimes I wear my troubles proudly, and I say, this is what's supposed to be, and it's okay, and it's alright, I make peace with it. Other times I'm not at peace with it. Other times I don't feel justified, and I feel victimized, and I feel unloved, and I feel unheard, Yeah. And I feel misguided, and I feel let down by the older generation and everything else. And I feel despondent, I feel despaired, I feel alone. I do. So sometimes, again, some of my prayers is just, God, Father above, Mother above, whatever it might be, higher being, higher self, just show me synchronicities and just bring sort of warm, loving messages into my life. Things that I know that your presence is there, and I know that I'm looked after, even though I don't feel like I am, because I got a bone to pick with you, and like just for myself, that my life is not just in vain, that it has meaning, and it is significant, and it counts. And that I'm loved, and I'm not truly alone. Those kind of things that I can pray for, that I feel that's okay. You know, it's what I'm ready to pray for. I'm feel comfortable asking for in that way. Like, hey, don't forget to reach out every once in a while and just let me know that you're there and sort of give me a pat on the back. You know, that would be nice. All right, take care.